Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Ben Thomas Show. Thanks for coming back. Today we have another figure preview from Exo-6. That's Commander Saru. Now, it seems to me that Exo-6 is changing their strategy a little bit around pre-order windows and immediate releases, so let's talk about that. But if you guys like this video, make sure you hit the like button, smash the subscribe for me, and let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I need to address, because it's the elephant in the room for me, is that this Commander Saru is up for immediate purchase. We're not getting a pre-order window like we've seen with other Exo-6 figures. Now, we're so used to, in the 6-scale community, having pre-order windows that can sometimes last for years, and then it can take even years after that to actually have the figure in hand. I think it's cool, don't get me wrong, that we can get this figure in hand pretty darn quickly if this is already up for an immediate purchase. But my challenge for Exo-6 is this. This is not giving reviewers much of a chance to talk about the figure before you're expecting money for it. It's really not giving budget collectors an opportunity to budget for this guy. And in my opinion, it creates FOMO, or fear of missing out, because if you have the funds for it, you may feel like you need to lock this figure in right away just in case it sells out, but it gives people no time for planning. Now, 6-scale collecting is still a premium hobby, and I think that us as collectors need to have, if we can anyways, some money in reserve for releases like this. But it does make me wonder, is Exo-6 starting to change their tactics around this? We've already seen this figure previewed at SDCC. We've seen it previewed through the developers' Facebook group, but we didn't get a pre-order window. Is that going to happen with Locutus? What about the motion picture Kirk that we keep being teased? It's okay if it's a figure here and there. But if Exo-6 decides to change their strategy and no longer necessarily offer a pre-order window and just releases these for immediate purchase, I'd be worried that the figures that have the biggest FOMO around them, such as characters like Locutus, somebody that I'm really excited to own in my collection, if we miss out, we miss out. So that means I have to basically have a bank account filled with Exo-6 money, just in case? I don't like that. That makes me feel like I'm forced into the purchase before I have a chance to actually look at it, think about it, and make a decision. Now, on the flip side, I also think it's worth noting that this may actually shift people's perspectives on ordering the figures at all. If Exo-6 gives us a whole whackload of orders for immediate purchase, I might be less likely to buy some of the characters that I don't necessarily need in my collection, but maybe kind of want. This Saru is kind of in that slot for me. I think this figure looks fantastic, and we're going to get into that in a second. It may not be a figure I absolutely need to have in my collection, and if I know that Locutus could come out next week, and maybe Worf the following week, or Motion Picture Kirk could be the following week after that, well geez, I need to start planning my money better, and I might not be willing to make a purchase of a figure I don't necessarily need in favor of one that might just pop up all of a sudden I need to have the funds for. What are your thoughts? But let's get into the cool part of this figure. Now, this guy is 13.75 inches tall, which means he is definitely head and shoulders above a lot of the 6-scale figures that I have, because the character himself is a pretty tall alien. And they've captured that well. That's something that I think Exo-6 does really, really well, is the scaling of the characters. You can see Saru here in comparison to the Michael Burnham that released. Very noticeable height differences, and appropriately so. I appreciate that. Now, some of the accessories that this guy comes with are in my opinion, already at this point, kind of standard when it comes to the Exo 6 release. You can see that he comes with that Type 2 phaser, which has a removable clip, and a removable Type 1 phaser, which is also really cool, and it can be worn in the holster on the utility belt. The tricorder, it's a standard tricorder, but it can also be worn in a case on the belt. So again, pretty cool there. The communicator has that flip top communicator, which can be also worn on the utility belt. I also think that that communicator looks really cool. So again, well done there in terms of the sculpting and the paint applications of that. And the phaser rifle, it's the Type 3 phaser rifle, which was used for, I think, most of the Discovery crew whenever they're looking to defend themselves. So again, relatively standard accessories, but what I would rather talk about is the hands. These hand sculpts are really well done. They look like they're well painted. I love the way that they're sculpted. Saru's hands are definitely part of his character, right? If you've seen Star Trek Discovery, you know he uses his hands a lot, or when he's feeling the senses, when he's thinking about things, when he's being expressive with his emotion, and I think these sculpts really capture that. So, for the hand sculpts, I can't believe I'm saying it, but bravo Exo 6. I think they are very, very well done. But one thing is really, really important to note, Exo 6, if you are listening, please start including some extra wrist pegs. My data, his wrist pegs are not only a little ugly, but they feel a little bit cheap. I've heard from the community out there that people's Janeways, some of their Burnhams, some of their other figures, the wrist pegs are breaking, and it's creating this customer service nightmare, I'd imagine, for Exo 6 or some of these distributing companies like Sideshow that sell the figure and now are needing to, replace figures because of a hand wrist peg? That's crazy to me. Exo 6, get smart. Please start adding a couple extra wrist pegs in for your community. It will be appreciated. The other thing is, try, if you can, to hide them a little bit better or to paint them a little bit better, because as nice as these hand sculpts are, seeing an ugly ass wrist peg really doesn't bode well for the coolness factor of the figure, and for me it can detract from my desire to pose them in certain positions if you can see those ugly wrist pegs. So please note that. I would say that the tailoring on the outfit for the Discovery uniforms looks fantastic. Similar to Michael Burnham, I love the gold striping in the outfit. I think that the Starfleet badge or emblem on the chest looks excellent. I think the suit looks very well fitted, especially considering this figure must have a relatively custom body build, or it's a creative trick due to those high-heeled boots that he's got on. Because again, he's head and shoulders taller than most other 6-scale figures. And the tailoring certainly matches the body underneath. So that, I think, is very, very well done. And lastly, I want to talk about the head sculpt, because damn, this is the type of quality I want to see from aliens going forward in Star Trek. Star Trek is absolutely known for the different species in their universes. Cardassians, Klingons, Ferengi, the list goes on. Vulcans, Romulans, Borg, so many things. If you can deliver on awesome looking aliens like you've done with Saru, and even continue to improve those paint apps and improve those sculpting techniques, you will definitely have our money, guaranteed. But I do think the likeness to the character is honestly spot on. They've done a really, really good job. I really do also love the color blue for the eyes. I think that's really fantastic. I think it's a very minor nitpick, but it would have been cool to potentially have a second head sculpt included for his alerted look, where his, I can't remember the name of the thing that moves up on the back of his neck, but it's like almost like his spider sense. Whenever something's bad's about to happen, he gets that Saru tingle. And I think that would have been a cool head sculpt to include, but it would have likely added quite a bit of cost to this figure, which may or may not have honestly been worth it. Now we are seeing the price increase still here of the $215 plus $25 flat rate international shipping. Again, that is an increase from some of the previous characters we've seen so far in the Exo 6 line. For me, this figure I do feel warrants that price tag. I think that they have done a great job. If I were to rate this figure, I would give this a 9 out of 10. It loses points for me just in the accessories department. They're just a little bit boring. I feel like we've seen them before. I would really like to see Exo 6 get a little bit more creative about what comes with each character, even if we still get a couple of the same accessories otherwise. I think the fact that it's up for immediate purchase bothers me a little bit because I'm a little bit worried about what's to come. But I think for this release, if you are a Star Trek Discovery fan, if you're trying to build out your Star Trek Discovery lineup, Saru is absolutely a must-have. He's a cool character in the show, and he's a very, very unique looking alien. He will be a standout in any Star Trek collection, and I am very excited to see my collector friends out there who love their Star Trek figures get this in hand. But for those of you guys who are asking me, I don't think this figure is going to come to my collection. Not because I don't think it's cool, but mostly because I'm trying to stick to my lane and stick to mostly Star Trek The Next Generation line, as well as maybe a couple exceptions. But I'd love to hear from you guys. Am I out to lunch not liking this immediate purchase window thing? Is it weird that I like the comfort zone of having that pre-order window and having some time to kind of digest and budget for it? Or are you guys liking it? What do you think of this figure? Do you think it's worth that $215 price tag? Or are you starting to feel like you need to be more selective in your purchases so that you can also plan for future releases? Love to hear from you guys, but if you like this video and you want more Star Trek content from me, definitely hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't, it's definitely appreciated. And I'll catch you guys on the next figure preview video.